Senator Connie Leyva.
Let me say what an honor to be here with all of you today, what a privilege. And let me also say, I had no idea this was here. This is amazing and beautiful, and just one more reason why the Inland Empire is such a great place, and that we all love living here. And some of you look young, so you're not raising your family yet, but for me, raising my family here in the Inland Empire. So thank you for having me here to talk a little bit about environmental justice, about what we really all need to do. So I moved here in 1970 to Chino. I was a very little girl. Most of you weren't even born. Now, when I was little, we never saw mountains. We didn't even really know that they existed. We had smog days. I can vividly remember being at school and my chest hurting, and we had to go inside, and we weren't allowed to go out and play. And now, not now, today, because we have some flyers going, but now we almost always get to see the mountains. And that's because we've done things that we're supposed to do. Cleaning up CEQA has been part of it, cleaning up the fuel that we put in our cars, making sure that we aren't putting those emissions out. But we still have a really big problem, because I asked, I said, why is it if we can see the mountains, why is it that our air pollution is still considered to be so bad? It's because the particulates have gotten smaller, which many of you may already know that. So we still have a tremendous amount of work to do. And something that I think maybe we forget about, all of us, is we think when we get someplace or we've done something, we've arrived and it's done. But we have to always keep fighting. Because if we stop and we think we've accomplished our goal, it's the folks that don't care as much as we do are going to make their way in, and then we're going to end up with the smog and the pollution that we had when I was a little girl. So even though it's a lot better, we still have a lot of work to do. My voice is pretty good today, but a lot of times my voice is very raspy, and I never really understood what that was about. And we go to the East Coast a good bit. My husband coaches baseball back there during the summer, and I didn't realize until a couple of years ago that the air quality is so much different. My voice sounds completely different when I'm back there. Isn't that interesting? So sometimes we get used to things, and it becomes our normal, and we don't realize that we shouldn't accept that. So I'm very excited to be here. I'm very excited to be your legislator. I'm going to tell you the really cool thing about getting elected to office. You get to learn things you would have never known about. I've always cared about the environment, but I didn't know what I could actually do as an elected official to try and make things better. So this last year and a half has been absolutely fascinating for me. I want to recognize my friend Eloise Reyes, and I really look forward to having her helping me with all of these issues. So that's a discussion for another day, but I'm very glad to see her here today, and very glad of what she's doing. So when I first ran for office, CCAEJ, I say it like that, Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice, called my office and said, would the senator want to go on what we lovingly call the toxic tour? And I said, yeah, that sounds kind of scary. What is that? So we spent an entire day in a 15-passenger van. It was one of, you were there, was that weren't you, my dear? Yes. It was one of the most enlightening days that I've had in my life, and it was also one of the most well-organized days. We would go to one site and see something, and then another group would jump in, and they would brief me on the way to the next one. It was absolutely fascinating and horrifying at the same time. I really had no idea the level to which toxicity in this area was. We started out in Pomona, and we started out in an older part of Pomona, which is very close to the edge of Chino where I grew up, and I had friends that lived there still. We went to school together. There's a number of different automotive places there. There's a place that recycles wood and wood chips. And all of these businesses produce toxins in the air. And guess what's just right down the street? A school, exactly. It's just amazing. So we went and talked to some of the owners. I met them and asked them what they were doing, and then I had a great briefing from the CCAEJ team. And then from there, we went out to Bloomington. That's when I met the Roaches. And we went out to their neighborhood and where they live in these beautiful homes in Bloomington. And there's a field, just a regular field. And I said, okay, to see our beautiful view of the mountains, which has changed because they did build this big warehouse over here. And they said, we can live with that. That's not what we thought we were getting into. But what we can't and don't want to live with is the huge warehouse that they want to build right literally in their backyard. And I said, well, you know, when you bought the house, did you check and see what the zoning is? Because most people don't do that, right? They had done that. And it was zoned for residential. So I too would buy that house thinking, okay, great, someday they might build more houses. Well, now the city is trying to change the zoning so they can build this horrible, huge warehouse literally in their backyard. And I was stunned by the fact that the city would want to do that or allow that, or the supervisors would allow that, because there's so much more room in Bloomington. There's other places. And business and our communities can totally coexist. We just have to be a little bit smart, right, about where we do things. So that's an ongoing fight that I've been really happy and proud to be a part of, and we'll win. We just have to be persistent and patient. So yeah. And maybe more persistent than patient, because patience isn't my long suit. And then from there we went and saw a railroad track that went literally right through a neighborhood in downtown Fulton. And they talked about how young people, kids get out of school, and literally the train is going through, and if it was going slow enough where it stopped, the kids would jump out over to get to where they lived. Unbelievable. Then we went out to an area in San Bernardino where there was a huge, it's the natural gas, not natural gas, I'm sorry. Thank you, CNG, where they store it all right across the street from an elementary school. And come to find out, they had evacuated the actual facility because they thought there was a leak and it would explode, and never even told the elementary school. So for me, the reason this was awesome is because when you know about something, you can do something about it. So we were able to get in touch in my office with the folks at CNG. They're in the process of moving those, and they will not be there by that elementary school any longer. That is running through the middle of the neighborhood. I don't know the date, but it will no longer be running through that neighborhood. And I can't take credit for that because I think it was kind of in the works when I started asking. But regardless, it won't be running through the middle of that neighborhood, which is really, really huge. So I say all of that because it's about awareness. And if we don't know, it's awareness and education. If we don't know, if we don't educate our communities, if we don't educate ourselves and our children, we don't know how to fix things. These were 4 things that I saw in one day that I didn't even know existed, and I've lived in the community for almost 48 of my 49 years. So I didn't even know. So this last year I introduced SB 1000, and SB 1000 would require that every city, when they update their general plan, they would have to include an environmental justice element. Of course, you can imagine some of the cities, actually I think most of the cities don't like it, but it's really not a hard thing to do. I'm not saying update your general plan right now today. We're saying when it comes time, update it, be smart. Plan what you're going to do. You want to build warehouses? Great. Let's build them over here. So we've got our little warehouses, and then we can have our community over here. And they can be in the same city, but they don't have to be right on top of each other. So I'm happy to say that SB 1000 has made it off the Senate floor. It is up next week in environmental quality in the Assembly. And then from there, if it gets out, which I feel like it will, then it will go to the Assembly floor and then on to the governor's desk, and hopefully Mr. Jerry Brown will feel the need to sign that. So, very happy to be a part of that. Something else I want to talk a little bit about is many of you may know and have seen a lot of warehouses. You've heard me talk about it right now today. Kind of the Inland Empire has become a proliferation of warehouses. Why? We have cheap land, which is a good thing. But the problem with these warehouses are numerous. For one thing, the ports of LA and the ports of Long Beach, they bring all of the goods to those warehouses from those ports. So they're driving through all of our neighborhoods every day. They're driving on the roads that we're on. So we really have to work on making sure that we have clean energy trucks that are bringing these goods to us. I have other issues with the warehouses because I do come from labor, so I work about the workers. I introduced a bill, SB 1167, and it would create an indoor heat standard. We all know that there's an outdoor heat standard. I did not know there was not an indoor heat standard. And when you meet with some of these folks who work in the warehouses, where they inhale a lot of particulates and whatnot because of the job that they do, it can get well over 120 degrees in these warehouses. So my bill would require that they have to air condition everything, because there are just going to be some industries that are hot. But we have to make sure that people have access to fresh water, that they have access to maybe more breaks, maybe a room where they can go and cool down, because healthy workers do better for the companies too. As you can probably imagine, all of industry is opposed to this bill. But as I tell them, we can't help workers, that's just wrong. And as I tell them, this helps business too, because if you know what to do, you don't want, really businesses don't want their workers to sue them. They don't want them to die, because that's going to cost them a lot of money. So if you just have a standard and you know what you're supposed to do, everybody wins. They don't feel that way, but we'll get them there. Just this week, I asked CARB, the California Air Resources Board, about how we can get more clean energy buses here in the Inland Empire. We know that our school buses, most of them are very old, and most of them put a lot of pollutants into the air when they're running our children around. So working with them to see if we can get some more of the low emission buses primarily in Rialto and Colton. Those are the two of the cities that we think we have a chance to get 9 to 12 school buses there. So I feel very lucky to be in the position I'm in, because I have access to people. I have access to people who make decisions. So what I would ask of all of you is, let me know what you need. Tell me how I can be helpful, because that's my job. My job is to represent all of you. You are my constituents, all 973,000 of you, and I love you all. But sometimes I don't know, and that's kind of the point of my story, is if CCAEJ hadn't taken me on this wonderful toxic tour, I wouldn't know how much need there was here in the city.
I brought with me a bag of material that I've been showing you off, so I'm proud.
That's nice.
And what it is that I vacuum off my carpets every day. And this has been going on for a long, long time. And I vacuum, and I have a tightly sealed house with new self-heating windows, high efficiency, air conditioning,
And this
filtration.
still is what gets through.
Still, this is what gets through. This is what's in our lungs.
Yeah,
It's on
that's
our carpets and on our
exactly right.
And this is what we're going through out there, and there's nothing to see to stop it. Where do we go with this kind of?
So that's a great question. I would start with your state senator. You can start with me too. We can help with that. Candidly, I don't know a lot about mining. I've been more invested in the air quality, pollution, and water and whatnot. Doesn't mean I can't learn about that. But candidly, you should put pressure on your elected officials. That's our job. And we're going to be voting in the Assembly and in the Senate on issues just like that, on mining. I don't know if there's any fracking going on, but whatever they're doing, we vote on whether or not they can do that. We vote on the limitations, the restrictions. So I would start with your local elected offices. Because like I tell people, I work for you, you pay my salary through your taxes, so make me work for you. Make your elected officials work for you. And you can always reach out to us. We will talk to anybody regardless of their parties. But start with us. Make us do our job. That's a really great point. When people only notify, and it's going to be city by city, so each city is going to have a different ordinance on what the notification time is. So, and you said it's only in 100 feet. 100 feet. Yeah, I would start with your. Yeah, it might be, but I would start with your city council or with you guys, the MAC board, and say, why can't we have, to me, the whole city should be aware of it. If something's going to happen in my city of Chino, even if it's going to be on the other side of Chino, it's still where I live, I would like to know about that. So I would start with your city council or the MAC board in your case, and just ask them, what is the ordinance? Where did you get this directive from? And once we know where the directive comes from, then we can figure out how to change it. let me know if I can be helpful. Ally, but I will give you my general thoughts. I don't know why they're saying that they can't test out the electric engines. We have electric engines that work. We have electric engines. I went to a ribbon cutting last year in Chino with a big truck that transports nursery things, nursery trees, plants, whatever I'm trying to say. Sorry. And they just bought this new electric vehicle to do it. So the technology is here. It doesn't need to be tested. A lot of times people will use an excuse, oh, they won't let us do this, they won't let us do that. The technology is here. It's being used right now. The problem is what inhibits most people or most businesses is it's very, very expensive. So what we try to do, as I'm learning at the state, is offer incentives. So we have to find that money. There's something called cap and trade, commonly referred to as pollute and spend, but it is what we have to use right now. And cap and trade monies are there and they're available for these kind of technologies. You're absolutely right. So she's talking about the BNSF rail station in San Bernardino, and there are literally houses right across the street. And I met with a lot of those neighbors, and candidly, they don't want to leave. I know one lady that I talked to, the house had been in her family for like 5 generations, so they don't want to leave. So, and the railroad and the house, I don't know the chicken or the egg, I don't know who was there first, but our job then is, if the railroad's not going away, the people who live there are living there. So we have to do our best to mitigate the pollutants. Their biggest complaint, believe it or not, is the lights. The lights that are on 24 hours a day, and they have to have these shades so that they can actually sleep at night. That's something we can probably work on. But I also have met with BNSF several times. They have some very high efficiency trains that pollute a lot less. So they are in the process of switching out and switching over. It's going to take a long time. That particular area is a really hard problem. There's also a community center there. I know that I've been to CCAEJ, and they have a special air conditioner that filters out all of the junk that you're unfortunately breathing, so the kids can come there and be safe. But that is a big issue, it's a big problem, and I don't have the answer. All I can tell you is I'm aware of it, and have been speaking to the people that are involved. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I just want to tell you thank you so much for coming today, because every time I hear you speak in the community, you really are a lot of things that we care about that we can't get other leaders to listen to. And so I just really feel like you always listen to us, so thank you for that, first of all. And then second of all, I wanted to say, all these ideas are really great at talking about these specific issues, but we're so reactionary. We wait until it's a problem to react, and I really want to get to a point where we're preventive.
Yes.
I'm with an organization called CHICA, which is the Chicano Indigenous Organization, and we do a lot of talking about, like, indigenous people knew that this was a problem before it ever was a problem.
Yes.
Recycling, reuse, balance and conservation was a part of the culture.
Yep.
And everything was about not using more than you need, not damaging the sensitive balance of Mother Earth. And how can we get back to a place where we're teaching young people that from a very young age, so that we're not in this situation where we're trying to fix what we broke, and trying to, I think it's a big issue of the voters vote for warehouses, they vote for factories, they vote for things because they don't understand that we can have clean air and jobs.
That's right.
We can have water and still have nice lawns and communities. We can have parks and still, have safe spaces for children and still have all the other things that we want for convenience. It's not an issue of, one or the other, it's an issue of balance, and how can we have both.
You are right on all of your points. The indigenous people here, we should have learned from them years and years ago about recycle, reuse. I'm going to say candidly, it all comes down to who you elect. Because when I'm in Sacramento, and I will tell you, when I talk about bills and that, all of industry hates it, all of industry hates something. And you have to be able to deflect that, and you have to be a strong enough person to say, but see, I don't, when they come and tell me they don't like something, I kind of like it. I look at it as a challenge, right? I come out of the labor movement. and so I look at life as one big grievance meeting. They have something I want, that they don't want to give it to me, and I have to figure out how to get it. So you have to, and a lot of times people don't want to talk to industry or anybody that opposes them, because of course we all rather hear that, oh, you're so great, you're so wonderful, but if we don't know what the other side is thinking, we can't combat the other side. And so I would say to all of you, write letters, call your elected officials, be in our face, because our job is to represent you. And if we don't represent you, then unelect us. I mean, when I was running for office a year and a half ago, and I knocked on doors and people were like kind of skeptical, and I said, you know what, give me a chance. If I don't do a good job in 2018, vote for somebody else. And I really mean that, because it's a real honor and a privilege to get to serve and try and do good work for all of you. I think also it's not just at the state level, it's who we elect to be president of the United States. And George Bush really got us into the I got mine society, where we didn't think about anybody in our community. We just had to have a nice car, the biggest possible house that we could afford, and buy all kinds of stuff. And we really lost our way as a country of helping each other in our communities. That if I'm doing well, the Leyvas are doing well, but my neighbors aren't doing well, then there's a problem, and we all have to work together. And I think we can get back there. I'm the eternal optimist. I always think that there's hope, and I always think that when people come together and the community comes together, there will always be more of us than them. And when I talk about them, that's usually big business. And I tell business, I love you, I want you to do really well, but take care of the people that are doing the job for you, number one. And number two, you don't have to harm the environment to do good work. But I think it's a lifelong challenge, and I think we'll continue working on it together, all of us. But we kind of are in a space where people are getting that you don't have to own every single thing, the newest thing that comes down the pipe. And as parents, our job is to teach our children that, right? They want the newest toy, they want the newest that, and we have to be able to say no. You don't have to be popular. I used to tell my girls, I'm not supposed to be your best friend. I'm supposed to raise you up to be good people in this community and in the world. And they would be like, really? And I'm like, yeah, really. So anyway, but it's all of us working together and all of us trying to get better every day. We're gonna fall down and we're gonna make mistakes, but we're gonna get back up and we're gonna keep trying. So I have another bill, SB 970, and that is to help with to kind of reduce methane, to encourage the composting and encourage recycling. I will be candid with you, it's getting a lot of tweaks along the way, and it won't be as good a bill as I feel it was when it started, but that's what happens sometimes. And we also have a number of bills that have moved from the Senate to the Assembly and vice versa on methane. And something that I learned, I did not know, maybe all of you know, and I was just sitting young and didn't know, when cows fart, that is methane. And we're not supposed to breathe that. I was like, get out of town. I didn't know, we have lots of cows. Clearly, a lot of cow farts. So, yeah, right, and people too, exactly, but they say the cows are a little bigger and whatever. So there are a number of bills. Senator Ricardo Lara has a bill, and I can't remember the number, but it is on short-lived climate pollutants, methane being, and you're absolutely right, the biggest one and the biggest problem. So we as a legislature are getting educated and getting smarter, and so offering legislation to try and help with that. So, and the cow industry has come in, the agriculture, they don't like the bill, but we're trying to work together on how do we do something, because we still need our milk and we still need our cows producing. So there's always a way, back to the lady's point, there's always a way to work together. So we're very cognizant of the legislature and we'll work out. I mean, I get involved in what's happening across the nation, but you might not know, but we're now the 6th largest economy in the state of California. So we don't compete with other states, we compete with other countries. And we do a lot. We're also lucky to be in California. So I feel like you're moving this way. So I'm going to cut it off. I don't want to overstay my welcome.
You are definitely not overstaying your welcome, but it is raffle time.
Oh, all right.
So what's at stake, everyone pull out their raffle tickets. What's at stake is that beautiful children's bicycle right there. So, yeah, Senator Leyva, pick out a number and read it.
Okay, I'm mixing them up. Okay, everybody ready? All 506-444. And I'm Okay, so thank you very much for having me.